Welcome to the Teapot Reads. My name's Sam. I'm the Teapot. This is what I'm currently reading, and I'm so happy to see you today. Hello and welcome back. This is not an unhaul video, but it's not an unhaul video, so it's kind of falling into a weird little space. I think I'm going to call it something like gardening my bookshelves, or weeding my bookshelves, something like that, because when I actually go through my bookshelves, I do feel a little bit like a gardener. I don't actually garden because I hate insects and avoid them at all costs, but I like the idea and the romantic sort of imagery of gardening, and I do feel like it is sort of applicable to my bookshelves and my collection, because it's like going through and being like, well, this isn't really something I'm interested in anymore, or this is something that I don't need this big of a collection of, or this is, these would look so nice together, let me put them together. So this is gonna be like gardening my bookcases. I spend a lot of money on books, and sometimes I overspend. In the last year or so, and especially the last couple months, I've done a really good job curtailing that and dealing with that problem, which is why I feel kind of excited actually about this project and this video, and I feel more comfortable talking about it. I have definitely in the past, and it was really bad in college, but I have in the past overbought and overspent and gotten myself into, problems by overspending specifically on books. And now that I'm, working on that part of myself, um, it's made me really reflect on the books that I do have on my shelves. So I want to go through and kind of determine what books I'm not interested in anymore and what books I might be interested in but need to think a little more realistically about. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be focusing on these three bookcases we see here, just because I do think this is going to take a while, so I didn't want to do all my bookcases. So I'm going to be focusing on these three for today's video, and I'm going to be walking you through the books on here that I think might be contenders for unhauls either later this year or early next year. I did already do like an unhaul video, and some of these you're going to see that I talked about being like, on the chopping block. Like if I don't read them, they will probably be gone. This is going to be like a very extended version of that, where if I don't read it, it should be gone. And I am going to keep a record of this, like personally. If I do it on a Google Doc, I might end up sharing it. So you could watch if I keep track of my progress on there. I don't know if that would be interesting. I don't really love working with Google Docs, but I think I might do it anyways. Just because it would be nice also to have like the motivation of other people being like, you said you'd read this in 6 months, but you didn't. There's like three things that are really like motivating me to do this. The first one, which is probably the most like noble of them, is that I really want my shelves to be a reflection of who I am as a reader. That doesn't necessarily mean it has to be every single book I've read and nothing but my favorites and the books I've read. I think that it's really great to have unread books on my shelves, and I wouldn't change that. And also, as someone who collects books, I want my collection of special editions to really reflect what I'm looking for, and not just like, oh, that was a pretty special edition, so I had to have it, so I bought it. Because that's definitely happened in the past. I've had a major fear of missing out, and I want my shelves to look like how I feel, like mentally. Like, this is who I feel I am as a reader, and this is what I love as a reader, whether it's because it's a pretty book, or whether it's because it's a book I loved, or it's a book I'm excited for. And that's the other thing, the books that I haven't read, I want to be excited for them. I really want to like look at a shelf and tell myself like, oh my gosh, everything on here looks amazing and exciting, and I cannot wait to read the ones I haven't read. Or, wow, I loved that book, and everything around it that I haven't read makes me think I might love it because I put it by this book because it reminds me of that book for what reason or whatever. I want to be excited, and I want to be in love, and I want my books to reflect me. So that's like the first big thing. And going through my books and weeding out the ones that don't make me excited or that I really didn't like. I really want to like stop and think about and talk about like, why am I keeping it? What is it, bringing to me? But like I said, I do collect books. I collect special editions, as you can probably see from up here. I've got my Sarah J. Maas collection. Like, that's not going to be touched. I have so many editions because I love all these editions, and I think they're so pretty, and I wouldn't get rid of these. I might be disappointed severely with A Court of Silver Flames, But over my dead body, are you taking my special editions away from me? Because I have an attachment to them, and I look at that and I think that is a beautiful thing that I want to keep. Even though I didn't love the book, I love the physical book. So that is something I'm going to be considering, and that's like the first reason I want my books to reflect me. The second reason is spending. I'm really working on my book spending and being a better budgeter in general. I, especially over the last like 2.5 months, I have started a new budgeting thing that does involve me looking at my expenses every 2 to 3 days, which can be a little tedious and also a little disheartening, but has helped me really be like, did I need to purchase that thing, or do I need to purchase this thing right away, or can I wait until like next week when things look a little better, when I have a little more room? It's helped me stop going out to eat as much. It's helped me really look at special editions that are coming out and determine, do I actually want that book for the book content, or do I just want it so that I could say I had it? And again, I do have to walk that line because I do collect books and I love pretty books. But if it's a book I'm never going to read, or it's a sequel to a book I hated, do I really need that book? It's just been something that's been on my mind and that I have done a really good job of in like right now, but not necessarily when I bought these books. Just to kind of keep me from overspending, I want to really go through the books I have on my shelves and kind of face what might have been overspent. And practically, I think the third big reason is because I'm running out of space, and I kind of hate having stacks of books on my floor. I don't hate all of the stacks. Like my Mortal Instruments stacks, I really like how they look. My middle grade stack, I'm okay with, but I don't love having stacks of books on my floor. My manga stacks, those are perfect. Wouldn't change those for anything. And I just feel cluttered in my life. And I'm not a minimalist in any definition of that word, but I have felt the urge a lot lately to go through all of my things and be very conscious about what I'm keeping and why. So all of those reasons have kind of coalesced into this, which is going to be going through the books on my shelves and not unhauling anything today. That's not happening today. I am just going to be facing these facts and these books with you and talking through why or why not I might keep a book. We'll probably sell, when I do the unhaul, I'll probably sell a bunch of the book. Some of these books are me just going to be coming to terms with the fact that I don't want it anymore. I'm not interested in it. And in those cases, when I put it on the Google Doc or whatever, I'm just going to list like it's probably up for unhaul. And then there are some books that I do want to give a chance. Some books I want to read within 6 months, some books within a year, and some books within 2 years. And that's going to be sort of a timeline. If I haven't gotten to it by then, it probably means I didn't feel the urge to. Lately, I have really not used a strict TBR. I've very much done a how do I feel, what kind of mood am I in, with a couple challenges. Like right now I've challenged myself to read fantasy rom-coms because I'm in a big mood for it, and I really just wanted to have the experience of only reading fantasy rom-coms or reading predominantly fantasy rom-coms for about a month, which that video is coming, you'll see it. I'm having a lot of fun with it. You know, by doing very much like mood reading, it means that I'm reading the books I'm most excited for. So yeah, if I don't find myself excited enough for these books, and I think 2 years is going to be the longest I'll extend to some of these books. Some of these books I'm fine being unread for an indefinite amount of time. But the books that I'm like considering for unhaul, yeah, they'll be either 6 months, a year, or 2 years. So we're going to get started. I guess I will start, we'll start with these because I think I'll have to move the camera a little bit to get this shelf, and I don't want to move the camera too much. Hopefully this angle is good for you all. And I'm actually going to go across, like, basically like that for each one, just because I feel like it's the most, well, actually, you know what, this is going to sound strange, but I'm going to go across, and then we'll probably go down, because I'll have to move the camera down for those anyway. So let's get started up here. So to start, I just kind of want to, well, let me move this stuff just so it's out of the way. I just kind of want to pull the ones I'm not super excited for. That was like a wad of dust. That was disgusting. I'm sorry. So there's a lot of sci-fi on this shelf. I love the Illuminae trilogy. I would keep that. I've had this one for a while. I actually just, so certain special editions, like I could tell you now, this is the Library of Broken Worlds by Elia Dawn Johnson. This is from the Locked Library. I'm not getting rid of any Locked Library books. At this point, I want to keep a complete collection of everything they've put out, because they have like the matching key on the spine, and I do think they're legitimately pretty. So this one wouldn't have been a contender anyways, because I do want to read this. It's sci-fi fantasy, I think, a little bit. So I do want to read that. And then, yeah, Pierce Brown's not in jeopardy. So this shelf, immediately, I've had These Broken Stars by Amy Kaufman and Megan Spooner for absolute years. And I have, like, so forgotten I even had it. I was actually going through, this is the book that made me think, yeah, I should, like, videotape this, because I think I want to, like, talk through it. But this one, I completely forgot I had it, and I was literally flipping through it the other day because I was over here looking for something, and I was like, this doesn't even sound appealing to me anymore. It did years ago when I bought it, but it doesn't sound appealing to me anymore. And that's something else. I really want to be, unless I'm buying a book for a collection, I want to be buying books and reading them within a couple months of having purchased them. That's something that's really important to me. Like, it's a goal I've set for myself kind of silently for the year. And so far, I've actually done a pretty good job of it. So I'm quite proud of myself in that regard. But yeah, These Broken Stars. Once upon a time, I probably would have really loved it. It's not my thing. So I could tell you that one is already kind of unhaul potential. The other three on the shelf are a little, I'm not 100% sure. This is The Other Side of the Sky, also by Amy Kaufman and Megan Spooner. I think the reason I'm kind of interested in keeping this is because it is Ghibli-esque. I think I would give myself, I don't think 2 years, because my taste in sci-fi has really started cementing itself into adult science fiction and adult queer normative science fiction and weird science fiction as well. So I'm thinking along the lines of Locked Tomb, obviously, but also like Becky Chambers, The Stars Undying, and this is not really that. However, because it's been compared to like Ghibli vibes, I think I'll give myself a year chance to read this one before committing one way or the other to keeping it. I do also really like the cover, and it is just a duet, so if I don't like it, it's not a huge commitment. Aurora Rising by Amy Kaufman and Jay Kristoff. I love the Illuminae trilogy. It is a fantastic series. I strongly recommend it. I don't know, this series never appealed to me in the same way. I think there's like time travel involved, which might be one of the reasons. And again, just my taste in sci-fi has really, it's something I didn't think it was, and I haven't really been interested in YA science fiction. I think the only thing I've read kind of recently that was YA science fiction was Iron Widow, and that was a while ago now. I'm just not as interested in it. I do really like Jay Kristoff, though, and I did like their other series together. I think I'm going to give this one 6 months, though. I think that if I don't read it in 6 months, I'm not going to feel like it's a loss of not having read it. That one, a bit more jeopardy. I don't think there's any reason I would get rid of Illuminae, though. And then I have The Space Between Worlds by Micaiah Johnson. This was an Illumicrate edition. I am not even 100%. Oh, it's about like parallel Earths. That's really not my vibe. And you have like multiple like doppelgangers. Would I even read this? I think I'll look up reviews of this and see if it's got like queer representation, and like what the reviews are saying. But I'm not a big fan of like, I don't know. I'm not a fan of like jumping bodies. There was a series I read when I was younger that did it really poorly and actually made me very uncomfortable because the way it dealt with consent was atrocious and just like non-existent. I'm assuming this would be better, and I think it is an adult book, but yeah, I think I'll look up reviews. Depending on reviews, I think this will either hit 6 months or contender for automatic unhaul. But everything else on this shelf I feel pretty good about. I'm really asking myself if I'm excited to read these books that I haven't read. Okay, so first of all, this is a really hard one. I read this book and was very disappointed by it. It is, however, fairy loot, and it is really pretty, and has like edges or end papers, and a pretty case, and reverse dust jacket. Like all, it has everything, right? I think the question is, when I look at this book, I guess there's two questions actually. When I look at this book, does it bring me more joy to have it as a pretty book than disappointment that the book actually was terrible? Like, what emotion is like coming out on top? And does it feel like it's just taking up space? Yeah, I think it does. And I don't think that on a reread I would like it more. That's the other question. Would I like it more if I reread it? Like, did I just like miss the mark? But no, I think I just I don't think it was for me. I really didn't like the writing, and that's the problem here. So no, I don't want to, you know, the big thing, I don't think I would want to spend money on the matching sequel. Like, I could use that money for other books. Hard, but I think this one is contender for on haul. Last Tale of the Flower Bride. This is also a fairy lit edition. This is by Roshani Chokshi. I have seen such mixed reviews of this, and I actually hate what they did with the edges very much. I feel like they could have done so much more, and they went with, like, I don't know, the most boring option. It's pretty, besides the edges, right? It's pretty, but I think that, well, I do want to actually read this one soon, because it's gothic, and I feel like gothic lit, it's like a historical romance with like some speculative elements, I believe, but I feel like gothic lit and like late summer go hand in hand. And right now, it's literally, the dew point is so high right now. They're saying this is what it feels like in the Amazon rainforest. Oh, well, that sucks, but I feel like that kind of cloying wet heat is very like morbid and gothic. I'm gonna give myself, you know, my gut says 6 months, but I think I'll give myself a year. I do want to read this soon, but I think that I would be disappointed if I got rid of it, because I do think there's a chance that I am really going to enjoy this one. So I'll give myself a year for Last Tale of the Flower Bride. Or reevaluate. And actually, I'm going to do the same for The Depths. I believe this is also kind of gothic-y, and it has like horror elements. I'm not normally a horror fan. I think I've talked about before how the first line always gets me when I'm flipping through this, which is there's a video of me dying on the internet and I can't stop watching it. So a little bit obsessed with that, and I think that this has potential to be like a book I really enjoy. So, and like a hidden gem. So I'm actually going to give myself a year on this one, because if I do like it, I would be really disappointed to get rid of this, I think, without trying it. So you know what? Actually, I'll give myself 2 years. I'll give myself 2 years on this one, because I would kick myself in the butt if I end up hating it. But I think if I don't read it within 2 years, it's probably just not in my wheelhouse or something I'm interested in anymore. This one's like a shelf that bores me pretty much the entire time. Yeah, there's a lot on the shelf that I'm like just uncertain of. Okay, we'll just start from this end. Together We Burn by Isabel Ibanez. I do believe there are dragons in this book. I want to give myself 2 years on it, but I think similar to The Depths, if I don't read it in the next 2 years, I'm probably just not going to be interested in reading it anymore, and that's that. That happens sometimes. But I do want to give this a fair shake, because I do think this is also another one that might end up being like a nice hidden gem. Then we have, this whole area is dusty. We have A Fire Endless and A River Enchanted by Rebecca Ross. I was actually super excited for these books, which is why I bought the sequel. These are Lumicrate editions, and I'm not excited for them anymore. I think, though, I just saw a couple reviews that really set me off and made me like, am I gonna like it? So I just have this like bad sense of them now. We're gonna see Divine Rivals in a second, because it's on this shelf, and I am going to read Divine Rivals soon. So I think that's really going to determine how quickly I read these guys. If I love Divine Rivals, I don't think this will be in, you know, jeopardy. But I think if I don't like Divine Rivals, depending on how much I dislike it, this could be like automatic unhaul. We're really going to see. I think I'm going to like Divine Rivals, so I think right now I'm going to hesitate and say 2 years. I'm going to say 1 year, because I think that will convince me to read them sooner, if I know I have about a year on them. However, if I loved Divine Rivals, I won't mind keeping these on my shelf for even longer. These were in my unhaul video as like on the chopping block. This is these Hollow Vows and These Twisted Bonds by Lexi Ryan. These are very much a case of fear of missing out, which is why I bought the sequel. They just don't interest me anymore. I'm giving them 6 months. I can tell you that now. They are a YA romantasy, I believe, with a love triangle, and sounds like it's very Sarah J. Maas vibes, which is not a bad thing in every regard, but I don't love how she writes romance, so if that's where it's taking most of the nods from, I don't think I'm going to love these books. However, I have actually had a couple people since saying online, I don't remember if it was here on the channel or on my TikTok, but people saying that they're actually surprisingly good, that they think I might like them, so that does actually make me a little more curious, but I do think that if I don't get to them in 6 months, it is time to say goodbye to these and just, you know, take the loss. These kind of hurt. These are the Reckoner series by Brandon Sanderson. I read Steelheart ages ago and loved it, and I could actually see myself keeping Steelheart as a, like, nostalgic book. I think it is signed as well, if I remember correctly. It is. It's signed, and it takes place in Chicago. And when I read it, I absolutely loved it because I really like Brandon Sanderson's writing. That said, I have no intention and no desire to continue this series at all. I'm not interested in superhero books anymore. I was barely interested in superhero books when I read this one, and at the time it was a cliffhanger, and again, had I continued it at the time, I might have loved them. But as it stands, I'm not interested. So yeah, I could see myself keeping Steelheart specifically and kind of putting it in storage as just like a nostalgic book. But I don't think I'm going to keep Firefight or Calamity. I think I'm just going to get rid of these and say goodbye to the Reckoners universe. This shelf is hard. The shelf is really hard because some of these books I've had for a couple years and would be really weird not to have them, I think. We're going to start with these, which is so hard for me to do. Once Upon a Broken Heart series by Stephanie Garber. I have the first 2 Barnes & Noble editions and the first 2 Fairy Loot editions. I loved the Caravel series. I loved the Caravel series until the 3rd book, and it ruined everything for me, and I was hoping Once Upon a Broken Heart would fix that, and it didn't. It just made it worse. And I did buy Ballad of Never After. And I don't know if I regret that 100% because these are gorgeous books. The customizations, especially on the Fairy Loot editions, are so pretty. But I look at these books and I think, do I really want to spend money on the 3rd one? Right? Like, do I want to? And there's nothing exciting to me anymore about continuing these. They're pretty, they have a great fandom, but I'm just sinking money into books I don't want to read. And, like, life's not long enough to read bad books on purpose. Unless you're having fun with it. And these aren't even, like, fun for me to read. So, I think these are unhaul potential books. I don't think there's anything that can save these. I think it's time to just quit Stephanie Garber. Timekeeper by Tara Sim is another book I've had on my shelf for a while. I actually bought this when it came out. I have another book by Tara Sim, an adult book they've written, and I think that I want to give that one a try first. If I like that book, I would consider keeping Timekeeper for a longer, but I think right now I'm going to give it a 2-year time period because if I don't read it in 2 years, I'm probably just not as interested, or I'm not going to be as interested in it as I am today. It is steampunk though, and I love steampunk. It's legitimately one of my favorite subgenres, so I do think that 2 years is a fair time to give it. But you know, again, it's taking up shelf space. Then I think these are both Goldsboro editions. I have Shield Maiden by Sharon Emmerichs and The Heroines by Laura Shepperson. They're not retellings, I don't think. Heroines might be, but they kind of fall into that category of, like, in my head, like, retelling or reimagining of historical either time periods or aesthetics or Greek myths or other myths. And I do not tend to like those. There are some exceptions like Circe and Song of Achilles, but I do not tend to like most retellings. They actually bore me a lot because I feel like they're not doing anything new and they're all just kind of copying each other. I'm going to give both of these a year based on how pretty they are. They are getting a lot of leeway from me because they're pretty and because they're Goldsboro. And Goldsboro, I almost always, not almost always, but every time I've been like very, I don't know about this book from Goldsboro, may as well just give it a try. Because like a good chunk of the time I'm actually very excited for what they put out. But when I'm like, about it, every time I've done that, I've loved it. So they really haven't disappointed me yet. And that's why I'm giving them a year as well, besides them being pretty. They're both contenders to be unhauled after a year. That was probably the most brutal shelf. We're gonna go down. And I can already tell you that the shelf here, right here, nothing's leaving. This shelf legitimately excites me from A to Z, top to bottom, beginning to end. Whenever I look at that shelf, I get excited for the potential. And even the books on there that I've read, even if I didn't love them, because like Owlish is on that shelf, I still am like, I love looking at you and having you on the shelf. So let us drop the camera down. Okay, this is a little, this is an okay angle. Maybe I will actually lower you a little more. The one leg does not want to stay up, but we're okay. So this is the shelf that I look at, and it's one that I can see from my bed when I'm going to sleep, and everything on here excites me. So, nothing is going to be touched. Most of these are actually unread, so it's a really great sign that they excite me. This shelf, I've actually just redone a little bit recently. I put my Haruki Murakami here, and it is double stacked. So everything up front, my Haruki Murakami and my Canongate Canons books, I am excited for, and I want to keep them all. So we're, or I loved it, or I just like collection-wise I'm keeping it. So I'm just going to move those, and we will dig right into what is behind it. So immediately behind it, let's see, what do I like possibly want to get rid of? And I bought Empire of Silence because so many people love this book. I'm going to give myself 2 years on this just because I've seen so many positive, glowing reviews for this series. And, you know, it's not the type of sci-fi I've been reading and enjoying, but that doesn't mean I won't read and enjoy it. So I will give myself 2 years on this, but I don't think longer than that. The Tiger's Daughter by K. Arsenault Rivera. I've had this one for ages. I don't think I'm gonna read it. I cannot see myself getting to this at all. So I think this is like an unhaul potential book. Oh man, you know what? No, I'm gonna keep that one. Threadneedle and the little novella The Hedge Witch by Carrie Thomas. I am gonna give myself 2 years on these. I think that there's a lot of potential with them and that I might really enjoy them, but they have been sitting here for a while and they haven't piqued my interest, and a lot of the reason I'm even giving them the 2 years is because they're, again, Goldsboro and they're very pretty. But I think 2 years and then we say goodbye. Which happens sometimes, you know, like, not everything is going to be a win. And one thing I'm really trying to do this year is look at my book buying, like, special edition and book box habits, because I do subscribe to a lot of book boxes, and whether I actually enjoy getting the book boxes or if it is, again, just more of that FOMO. And one of the things that I'm really trying to do this year is read my book box books and read them as they arrive and feel excited for them. And if I'm not feeling excited for them, really consider, do I actually want to stay subscribed? Have I even enjoyed the books they've been putting out? So that's something that I'm really working on this year, and I do want to at some point dedicate a whole video to, like, talking about. That's why I think that these weeding kind of opportunities and making me face what I don't want to keep is a really good exercise, because it makes me look at book box books and determine, do I still want that book box, or has it just been giving me duds? Oh, I'm a little afraid to do this shelf. Let's see. I have had I, Lucifer forever. I feel like I've been saying I'm going to read this book forever. I think I'm going to give myself a year on it. And that even feels long, but I think that if I don't read it in a year, and maybe that year will give me some motivation, but if I don't read it in a year, I think that it's time to finally say goodbye to this book. Oh, here we go. Here's some. Octopus Man by Jasper Gibson. This book I actually bought based off of a review I saw here on YouTube. It is a book that super interests me. I think it's actually more lit fic than speculative. I've kind of forgotten I had it though, and that's the problem. If I'm forgetting that I have it, why keep it I think I'm gonna give myself 6 months on this. If I don't read it in 6 months, I will just have to let it pass. Missed opportunity, but also can't have been that important to me if I've had it sitting on my shelf for a while. So we're gonna give myself 6 months with the Octopus Man. I'm also gonna give myself, you know what? No. Well, I'm gonna actually look at reviews for this one. Space Unicorn Blues. I've had it for a while. It's by Bad Robot. This is a publisher, I mean, or Angry Robot. I actually had like a phase where I was like really into like Angry Robot as a publisher. I was reading a lot of their arcs and ebooks on Kindle and stuff. So I'm going to look at reviews, and based on the reviews determine whether it is an immediate unhaul potential or whether I should give it as much as 2 years. So this is I'm going to determine, but I don't imagine I'm going to just like feel comfortable with this like sitting on my shelf forever, because I don't think I'm going to be interested in it forever. And again, kind of keep forgetting that I have it. So now this shelf underneath it, this bottom shelf, this is mostly nonfiction, and I do really love my nonfiction, and I would love to give more space to it, but I want to actually go through it, like all of this, and really determine. I think for nonfiction, I'll give myself sort of 3 years. If I don't think I'm going to read it in 3 years, I think that's when I will really consider getting rid of it. I guess it's not all nonfiction, but that's the vast majority of it. Oh, here one. This is lit. I think it's about to fall over, I think. Migrations by Charlotte McConaughey. I bought this off of a recommendation of a coworker, but I have like almost no interest in it anymore. Because it's lit and I'm really interested in getting into lit though, I think I'm going to give myself a year on this one. But then if I don't read it in a year, I can't imagine why I'd keep it. Ooh, 2 books that have really been debated whether I keep them. We have An Assembly Such as This. It's like a retelling of Pride and Prejudice. It's a trilogy, and this is like before Pride and Prejudice, but it's all from Darcy's point of view. I do love Pride and Prejudice. I think I'm gonna give, you know what, no, I think I'm just gonna keep this one. However, Train Spotting by Irvine Wells. You have to be like in a mood, I think, to want this kind of book. So I'm gonna give myself 2 years. If that mood doesn't catch me, I will unhaul it. Again, there's not enough time to waste on books you're not interested in. I am interested in it, but am I more interested in it than other books? I don't know. So yeah, this shelf isn't all nonfiction. It's just like predominantly. The Book of Delights by Ross Gay. I enjoyed this for what it was. Unhauling, I think. I think that's unhaul potential. I just don't think I'll return to it. I never finished it. Ooh, I can tell you I would get rid of this one too. I started it. I'm gonna take the bookmark out. I was so bored. I was so bored. Bye. I mean, this isn't an unhaul video, but they would make that list. Turning my attention to the shelf. I actually don't think there's going to be a lot on here that I would get rid of. I think this shelf I find pretty exciting. Yeah, I don't have anything to... Same with the shelf underneath it. It's mostly literature, and again, I'd love more space for my lit, so this weeding might help with that. But there's nothing I want to get rid of or want to consider even getting rid of. This very bottom shelf is predominantly my Harry Potter books. And I feel very strangely about Harry Potter these days because it's really hard to disassociate it from J.K. Rowling for me. J.K. Rowling for me personally. And even though I have a lot of fondness for those books and even the films, every time I found myself thinking about them, I have had a very hard time not feeling just disgusted by the things J.K. Rowling has said and the harm she's caused. I'm not getting rid of my Harry Potter books. I think I have too much attachment to them, right? I think I have too much attachment to them to just get rid of them. But I do feel really like, I want to almost be able to reclaim the love I have of those books, but I just haven't yet. They're gonna stay in the corner. That's mostly what's on that shelf. The only thing that I would really consider getting rid of, and I think honestly I can say, yeah, this is probably just immediate unhaul potential. It's called City of the Iron Fish. I got it because it was on sale, but I haven't even thought about it and forgot I had it and have no interest in reading it. So I think I kept it in my unhaul video because I was like, what if it's a hidden gem? But even though that was like about 6 months ago that I filmed that video, I've already forgotten that I had it. So how much of a hidden gem can it be? We're gonna actually move to this bookshelf now, and this is getting kind of long, so yeah, I will only do the 3 bookcases, and at a later date go through my other shelves. But let's start at the bottom here. I'm just gonna readjust the camera a little bit. Okay, hopefully that's okay. So this bottom shelf has a lot of like nostalgic books on it. I honestly can't imagine getting rid of. Yeah, that shelf is fine. This shelf though. I have 2 sets of JLA's from Blood and Ash series. So I have the Illumicrate set, which have these gorgeous covers, and I have the Bookish box set, which have these even prettier covers. And I mean, book 1 was kind of a fun, guilty pleasure read, but I just haven't been interested in continuing this series, and having 2 sets seems like a lot. I think I'm gonna give myself, I have to remind myself, there's no point spending my time reading books I'm not really super interested in. I'm gonna give myself a year, and if I don't like them or don't find myself going to them, I will unhaul. I'm gonna give myself a year to read at least 1 more book in the series before I unhaul. That's hard. This is a hard one because I think they're just really pretty editions, but I don't want them taking up space on my shelf that could be given to another book to feature. I could see myself changing my mind and deciding to keep these after a year, even if I haven't read the next one, but I really want to try to stick to that, like at least read 1 more or get rid of them. Yeah, this shelf I think will probably be okay because the only stuff on here, I think I'm excited for all of it. A lot of it is like particular editions are like wedged in the back. Yeah, I think everything on here I'm excited about. I know what's on here. So this shelf here, and then we'll move the camera up all the way. It's my little like half shelf. I'm excited for everything in these 2. And yeah, okay. The shelf is good. And I can already tell you the shelf right above it, also good. So it's going to be just 2 more shelves. 1 little half shelf and full-sized shelf. So let's go up. So this full-size shelf, I read Undertaking of Heart and Mercy recently, and I'm going to keep it. I wasn't wild about it. I did enjoy it. I'm going to keep it because I do think that this is a book that upon reread, I might, in a couple years, actually find myself enjoying more. I do think I might keep coming back to it as a contender for unhauling, but for now, no. It is also really pretty. Would I read a sequel? No, I don't think I would. But this one, I will keep. So, immediately, the big one on the shelf that like glares to me is this edition of Divine Rivals. This is the Owlcrate edition. I hate it. I would have gotten rid of it immediately, except I really want to read Divine Rivals. And if I love the book, I might want to have every edition, even the ugly one. I just cannot stand it. So, we're keeping it for now. It's a very for now decision. I just think, there's cuter ways to do this cover. Why didn't you make the title, like, whatever. If I don't, I'm going to read Divine Rivals very soon. If I don't read Divine Rivals in the next 6 months, I'll get rid of that specific edition. But I love the Fairy Loot edition, so it's not even on the table. And then we have my Chloe Gong books. I haven't read any of them. And I'm not even convinced I'm going to like them. I'm giving myself... I'm going to give myself a year on this. We'll give myself a whole year. If I don't read at least these violent... You know what? Now, we're giving myself 6 months. Because I am sinking money into the series without knowing if I'm going to like it. We're giving myself 6 months. If I don't at least read these Violent Delights in 6 months, it is gone. And then up here, I think these were all unhaul potential. Oh, I forgot I had those bookmarks there. These are King of Battle and Blood, Song of the River, and The Last Sun. I am actually going to tell you right now, these 2 are immediate unhaul potential. I'm not even going to give them a try. I cannot imagine reading them anytime soon. However, The Last Sun is gay, and so I am still going to give myself a chance with it. I'm actually going to extend it another year, because right now I have not been in an urban fantasy mood at all. And I know it's like more fantasy than urban, but I want to be fair to the book and give myself another year, because I'm sure the vibes will come back and I will want to read urban fantasy. So I want it there. So we're going to extend that a year on The Last Sun. But if I don't read it, just time to probably get rid of that one. This is harsh, and I probably wasn't even as harsh as I could be. It's really hard to get rid of my books because I love them so much. But I think that's where I'll stop on these shelves for now. I don't think there's... I mean, this top shelf is Dresden Files. I wouldn't touch it. I think there's books on these shelves that if I read them and don't like them, they would be immediate, like, unhauls. But again, I need to get better at reading the books I already own and only buying books that I'm either ready to read right away or are for my collection in a way that I feel strongly about. So I think that's where I'm going to leave it. That is where I'm going to leave weeding my shelves for now. I will do a Google Doc. I will share it down below if you want to look at it, take a peek at it. I will try to update it when I have read things. I probably could have been a little more brutal on myself. I have a feeling this is going to be a kind of conversation I keep coming back to with myself, having again and again, like, do I need that book? I think though the shelves that are going to be the hardest are the ones I haven't done yet. So gonna have to face some hard truths on some of these bookcases. Anyway, thank you for being here. Thank you for watching. If you liked this content, please consider subscribing. I would really appreciate it. And if you're already a subscriber, thank you, thank you, thank you. It means the world to me that you are here. If you're somewhere cold, I hope you're staying warm. And if you're somewhere warm, I hope you're staying comfortable. Most of all, I hope you're reading a great book. I'll see you guys next time. Bye!